Peas. I stood there in a room full of people, and somehow I had never felt more alone in my entire life. The suit fit perfectly. The lights were soft. Everything was ready, except you. No message, no explanation. Just silence. The kind that doesn't just fill a room, it breaks something inside you slowly, quietly, permanently. Peas. I remember looking at the door, not moving, just waiting, like if I stayed still enough, time might feel sorry for me and bring you back through it. But it didn't. And what hurt the most wasn't that you left. It was realizing how long I had been losing you without noticing. I had built a life people admired, success, recognition, applause, peace. But none of it knew how to sit beside me in that empty moment. None of it knew how to love me back. Tell me, have you ever given your whole heart to something you thought was only to realize it was already slipping away while you were still holding on? Because I think that's where my story with you truly began. Peas. I don't think I've ever said this out loud before, but that day didn't break me the way people think it did. It emptied me. I'm not a young man chasing illusions anymore. Peas. I've lived enough life to recognize when something is quietly ending, even when I pretend it isn't. I almost didn't say this. Peas. But you deserve the truth I've been carrying in silence. Peace. Something inside me won't let me stay silent anymore. Well, I remember the room more than the people. That's what stays with me. Not faces, not voices. Just space. Too much space for something that was supposed to be full of life. The chairs were aligned perfectly. Flowers placed with care. Peas, light falling softly across everything, like the world was trying to be gentle with me before it did something cruel, and I stood there feeling it before I understood it. That quiet shift, the kind that doesn't announce itself, the kind that just takes. I kept checking the door, not in panic, not even in fear, just hope. Slow, stubborn hope. Peace. Because when you love someone long enough, you learn how to excuse their absence. She's late. She'll come. There must be a reason. Peace. I said those things without speaking them, but there's a moment, a very small, almost invisible moment, when hope begins to feel heavy instead of warm. I felt that. Peace. Right there, standing still, pretending I wasn't already losing you. Peas. The air felt colder than it should have. Or maybe it was just me. My hands didn't shake. That's the strange part. Peas. I've learned how to stay still even when everything inside me is falling apart. That's what success teaches you, I think. How to smile when you're breaking. Peas, how to stand when you want to disappear. I never said this then, but I will now. I wasn't surprised. Peas, and that truth, it sits heavier than anything else because it means something inside me already knew you were slipping away, knew I was holding on to something that wasn't holding me back, and still I stayed, still I believed. Still, I built something in my mind that reality never agreed to. Do you know what that feels like? Peace. To love someone not as they are, but as you hope they'll become again. It's a quiet kind of self-betrayal. No one sees it. No one warns you. Peace. You just wake up one day and realize you've been alone inside a relationship for longer than you can remember. I think that's when it really started. Peas, not the day you didn't show up, but the nights before that, the unread messages, the delayed replies. Peas, the conversations that felt shorter, colder, like something was being slowly withdrawn without explanation. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I did what I've always done. Peace. I stayed quiet because losing you loudly felt worse than losing you slowly. At least slow loss gives you time to pretend, time to hold on to fragments and call them love. Peace. I remember one night the kitchen light was still on. Peace. You used to turn it off before going to bed, always. It was a small thing, but it mattered to me. It meant you were still there, even in the quiet. That night, it stayed on. Peace. I stood there for a long time just looking at it, not because of the light itself, but because of what it meant. Something had changed. Something small but irreversible. Peace. I never asked you about it. Peace. I never asked you about a lot of things. And maybe that was my mistake. Or maybe it was my fear. Because asking questions means facing answers. And I wasn't sure I was ready to hear that you were already leaving long before you actually did. I never said this then. But I will now. I was afraid of the truth. Not because it would hurt. Peace. But because it would confirm what I already felt in the silence between us. That I was no longer enough. That whatever we had was fading, and I didn't know how to stop it. Peace, or maybe I did, and I just didn't have the courage to try. There's a certain kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. Peace. It comes from being with someone who no longer sees you. I felt that with you. Peace. Not all at once, but slowly, gently, like something was being taken from me piece by piece. The way you looked at me changed. It became shorter, less present. Peace. Like your eyes were already somewhere else, even when your body was still beside me. And I told myself it was nothing. Just stress, just distance, just life. Peace. We're very good at explaining away the things that scare us the most. Peace. It helps us stay where we are even when we shouldn't. I kept telling myself love doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. But I think I was wrong. Peace. Sometimes it doesn't change. Sometimes it leaves quietly, without asking, without warning. And the person left behind, they're the last to accept it. Peace. I remember sitting alone one night, phone in my hand, staring at your name, not calling. Peace. Not texting, just staring, as if the act of reaching out might somehow break the fragile illusion I was still holding on to. Peace. Because as long as I didn't try, I could still believe everything was okay, that we were okay, but we weren't. And deep down, I knew that. That's the part I carry with me now. Peace, not your absence, but my awareness of it before it happened. Peace, I saw the ending, and I chose not to look directly at it. I chose comfort over truth, silence over honesty, hope over reality. And maybe that's where I lost you. Peace, or maybe that's where I lost myself. Because love, real love, it doesn't survive in silence. It needs presence, it needs courage. Peace, and I gave you patience when what we needed was truth. I gave you space when what we needed was honesty. Peace, I gave you quiet when what we needed was a voice. And now, all I have left is the echo of everything I never said. It follows me sometimes, in quiet rooms, in late nights. Peace, in moments like this, when I find myself speaking to you, even though you're not here, or maybe you are. In a different way. Peace. Because when I look at you now, I see the past anymore. I see something softer. Peas, something unfamiliar but not distant, and it scares me. Not because I don't want it, but because I do. Because after everything, after all the silence, after all the loss, there's still a part of me that wants to believe in, that wants to feel something real without losing it, without losing myself. But I don't know how to do that yet. Peace. I don't know how to stand in front of someone and trust that they won't disappear the moment I start to care. Peace. I don't know how to hold something gently without fearing it will slip through my hands again. And maybe that's the truth I've been avoiding now, not you. Peace. But what comes after you? Because loving, again, it means risking everything I barely managed to hold together the first time. Peace. And I'm not sure I'm as strong as I used to be. Or maybe I'm just more honest now, more aware of what love can take when it leaves. Peace. I wish I could tell you this without hesitation, without this quiet weight in my chest. But honesty doesn't come easy when you've been broken gently. It comes slowly, like this. Piece by piece. And maybe that's enough for now. Maybe that's all I can give. Peace. Because even now, even after everything, there's still something inside me that pauses before fully opening the door again, not closing it, just not opening it all the way. And I think that's where I'm standing, right there, between what I lost and what I'm not sure I'm ready to find. Peace. I wake up tired in a way sleep never fixes. Like something inside me has been working all night, carrying weight I don't remember agreeing to hold. Peace. I'm not the man people think I am when they look at me. I've learned how to function, how to exist, but not how to feel without consequences. I almost didn't say this. Peace, but you feel like the one place I don't have to hide the truth from. Peace. Something inside me won't let me stay silent anymore. There was a morning not long after everything ended where the silence felt different, not loud, not sharp. Peace, just permanent. I sat at the edge of the bed for a long time. No messages, no missed calls, no sign that anything had ever been there at all. Peace, and that's when it hit me. Not the loss, but the absence of expectation. Peace. I wasn't waiting anymore, and that felt worse than waiting ever did, because hope, even painful hope, still feels alive. Peace. But this felt like something had quietly died inside me, and I didn't even hear it happen. I walked into the kitchen that day, the same light, the same space. Peace. But it didn't feel like a memory anymore. It felt like a place I didn't belong to. I made coffee out of habit. Peace. Didn't drink it, just stood there holding the cup, watching the steam disappear into nothing. I never said this then, but I will now. Peace. I didn't miss you the way people expect someone to miss a person. I missed who I was with you. That version of me, he believed in things. He trusted easily. Peace. He didn't measure words before saying them. He didn't hesitate before loving. Peace. And losing you, it felt like losing him too. That's the part no one prepares you for. Peace. Love doesn't just take the other person when it ends. It takes a version of you that only existed because they were there. Peace. And you're left standing there trying to figure out how to be someone new with pieces that don't quite fit anymore. Peace. Do you know what it's like to feel unfamiliar in your own life? Peace. To walk through days that used to mean something and feel nothing but distance from them? I lived like that for a while. Not broken, not crying, just disconnected. Peace, like I was watching my life instead of living it. People talked to me. I responded. They laughed. I smiled. Peace, everything looked normal, but inside there was this quiet emptiness that nothing seemed to reach. Peace, I tried to fill it at first. Work, noise, distractions that promised relief, but only gave me exhaustion. Peace, because no matter how full my days were, the nights always found, and nights don't lie, no, strip everything away. No voices, no movement. Peace, just you and whatever you've been avoiding. I remember one night, the clock said 3:17. I don't know why I remember that. Peace, maybe because it felt like time had stopped moving forward and decided to sit with me instead. I was on the couch, lights off, phone beside me, peace, and for a moment I almost reached for it, almost called you, not to ask why, not to fix anything, just to hear your voice. Peace, because silence had become too heavy to carry alone, but I didn't. My hand stopped halfway. Peace. And I realized something I had been avoiding for too long. There was no version of that call where I didn't lose something of myself. Peace, either you wouldn't answer or you would, and I would hear in your voice what I had already felt in your absence, distance, finality, a closure I wasn't ready for. Peace, so I pulled my hand back and let the silence stay. That was the moment something shifted in me. Peace, not healing, not acceptance, just awareness that I couldn't keep reaching for someone who had already let go. And that realization, it didn't make me stronger. It made me quieter, more careful, more guarded. I never said this then, but I will now. I started questioning myself, not you, not what happened, me. What did I miss? Where did I become less? Peace. What part of me wasn't enough to be chosen, to be stayed for, to be fought for? Those questions don't come loudly. They come in moments, small ones. Peace. Like when you look in the mirror a little longer than usual, or when you hesitate before sending a message to someone new. Peace. Or when someone shows you kindness and instead of receiving it, you doubt it. That's when I realized something deeper. Peace, it wasn't just about losing you, it was about what losing you made me believe about myself. And that belief, it's hard to unlearn because it hides in everything. Peace, in the way I speak, in the way I listen, in the way I hold back parts of myself just in case they become reasons for someone else to leave. I built walls I never used to have. Peace, not tall ones, not obvious ones. Peace, just enough to keep things from getting too close, too real, too dangerous. And for a while, that felt safe, controlled, predictable, no risk, no deep pain. Peace, but also no real connection, just surface, just distance disguised as peace. And then you appeared, not loudly, not dramatically, just there. Peace, like something familiar I couldn't quite place. You didn't ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. Peace, you didn't push, you didn't demand anything from me, and that, it confused me more than anything else. Peace, because I didn't know what to do with something that didn't feel like it would disappear. I kept waiting for it. That shift, that distance. Peace, that moment where everything starts slipping again, but it didn't come. And instead of feeling relieved, I felt uneasy. Peace, because when you've learned to expect loss, consistency feels unfamiliar, almost suspicious. I found myself holding back with you, not because I didn't feel something, but because I felt too much, too quickly, and I didn't trust it. Or maybe I didn't trust myself with it. I never said this then, but I will now. Peace. I was afraid that if I let you see me fully, you would eventually find the same reasons to leave. And I don't think I could survive that the same way twice. Peace. So I stayed somewhere in between, present but not open, warm but not vulnerable, close but not fully there. And I hate that part of me. Peace. The part that learned to protect itself by withholding the very thing it needed most. Peace. But I'm trying to understand it instead of fighting it, because maybe it's not weakness. Maybe it's just a wound, still learning how to trust again. Peace. And maybe you're not here to fix it or heal it or change me. Maybe you're just here to sit with me in it without asking me to be anything other than what I am right now. Peace, and that thought does something to me, something quiet. Peace, something I don't fully understand yet. It doesn't feel like love the way I used to know it. It feels calmer, slower, less certain, but more real. Peace. Like something that doesn't need to be rushed because it's not trying to prove anything. And maybe that's what I've been missing all along. Not intensity, not perfection. Peace, just presence, someone who stays. Peace, not because everything is easy, but because leaving isn't the first answer when things get hard. I don't know where this goes. I don't know what this becomes, and for the first time, I'm not trying to figure it out too quickly. I'm just here with you, learning how to feel again without closing the door too early. Peace, without assuming the ending before the beginning has a chance to breathe. But even now, there's still a part of me that hesitates, that watches, that waits for something to go wrong. And I don't know if that part will ever fully disappear, or if it's just something I'll learn to carry differently, more gently, less fearfully. But still, it's there. Peace, like a quiet shadow that doesn't leave, even when the light returns. And maybe that's okay. Maybe healing isn't about removing the shadow. Peace. Maybe it's about learning not to let it control where you stand. I don't have answers. I don't have certainty. All I have is this quiet peace, unfamiliar feeling that maybe, just maybe, not everything that comes into my life is meant to leave. Peace. And that thought, it stays with me longer than I expect. In the silence, in the pauses, in the moments where I almost close off, but don't. It lingers. Peace, like something waiting not to be rushed, not to be forced, just to be allowed. And I think that's where I am with you, not healed, not whole. Peace, just open enough to not walk away and closed enough to still feel afraid of staying. Peace, I don't feel strong tonight, just honest in a way that makes everything a little harder to hide. Peace, I've lived long enough to know the difference between surviving and actually living. And lately, I'm not sure which one I've been doing. I almost didn't say this. Peace, but You've been standing in the quiet parts of me without asking for anything, and that makes it difficult to keep pretending. Peace, something inside me won't let me stay silent anymore. There are nights when the room feels smaller than it is, not physically, emotionally. Peace, like the walls remember things I try to forget. I sit there, sometimes turning the lights on, letting the dark do what it does best. It doesn't ask questions. Peace, it doesn't expect anything from me. It just lets me exist as I am. Peace, and in that stillness, everything I've buried starts to rise, not loudly, not all at once, just enough to remind me that it never really left. Peas. I remember a night when it rained for hours, not the kind of rain that feels comforting. Peas, the kind that lingers, heavy, almost like it's trying to say something but doesn't know how. I stood near the window, didn't move, didn't think, just listened. Peace. And for a moment, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time, not pain, not it closer to truth. The kind that doesn't hurt immediately, but stays with you long enough to change how you see everything after. I never said this then, but I will now. I think I've been afraid of being fully known, not just loved, known. Peace. Because being known means someone sees the parts of you you've worked hard to keep hidden, the doubts, the moments you weren't proud of. Peace, the ways you've hurt people, not out of cruelty, but out of fear. And I've done that more than I like to admit. Peace, there were times I pulled away before anyone could get too close. Times I stayed silent when I should have spoken. Peace. Times I convinced myself I didn't need someone just so I wouldn't have to face how much I actually did. Not just what was done to me, but what I did in return, or what I failed to do. And somewhere in all of that, I built this version of myself that felt safer, more controlled, less exposed, but also less real. Peace. Do you know what it's like to become someone even you don't fully recognize anymore? To look at your own reflection and feel like there's a distance between who you are and who you used to be. I've stood there before, longer than I should have, trying to figure out when the shift happened, when I stopped being open and started being careful. Peace, when I stopped trusting and started preparing for loss. And I don't think there's a single moment you can point to. It's gradual, quiet, almost invisible. Peace, until one day you realize you're not protecting yourself anymore. You're hiding. That realization, it doesn't come with relief. It comes with something heavier. Peace, responsibility, because once you see it, you can't pretend it's not there anymore. Peace, and that's where things started to change for me. Not in a dramatic way, not all at once, just small shifts, like noticing when I hold back a thought and choosing peace, sometimes to let it exist instead of burying it. Like catching myself expecting someone to leave and questioning that instinct instead of obeying it. And then there's you. Peace, you didn't force any of that. Peace, you didn't come in with answers or expectations or promises. You just stayed in a way that felt unfamiliar but not uncomfortable. And I don't think you realize what that does to someone like me, someone who has learned to associate closeness with eventual distance. It creates a kind of tension, not negative, just delicate. Peace, like holding something fragile and not being sure if you're allowed to. I found myself watching you, not in doubt, in disbelief, waiting for the moment something shifts. Peace, for the distance to appear, for the silence to return in the same way it did before, but it didn't, and that's when something deeper surfaced. Peace, something I hadn't faced honestly before. I never said this then, but I will now. Peace, I don't always believe I'm worth staying for, not in the way people think. It's not loud, it doesn't show itself openly, it's quieter than that, it shows up in hesitation. Peace, in the way I hold back just enough so that if someone leaves, it doesn't destroy me completely. It's a form of control. Peace, a way of protecting myself from feeling everything all at once. Peace, but it also means I never fully give everything I have. And that truth, it's hard to sit with because it means I've been part of my own distance, part of my own loneliness. Peace, not intentionally, not knowingly, but still, it's there. And facing that, it changes something. It removes the comfort of blaming everything on what was done to me. Peace, and replaces it with something more honest, more difficult. Peace, the understanding that I have to choose differently if I want something different. And that choice, it scares me more than anything else. Peace, because choosing differently means risking again, opening again, allowing something real to exist without controlling how it might end. Peace, and I don't know if I'm ready for that. Or maybe I'm just closer to ready than I've ever been. Peace, because when I look at you, I don't feel the same urgency I used to feel with love. That need to define it, to secure it, to make it certain. Peace. What I feel instead is something slower, something that doesn't demand answers. Peace. Something that feels like it could grow if I don't rush it or ruin it by trying to protect myself too much. And that thought, it stays with me in the quiet. Peace in the spaces where I would usually retreat. It reminds me gently that maybe not everything is meant to repeat itself. Peace. That maybe, just maybe, there are moments in life where something arrives not to break you, but to show you that you're still capable of feeling even after everything. Peace. And I don't want to lose that, not because I'm afraid of being alone. Peace. But because I'm tired of living half open, half present, half alive. I don't know what this becomes. I don't know what you and I are, or what we're meant to be. Peace. And for once, I'm not trying to rush toward an answer. I'm just here, letting it exist without forcing it into something it's not ready to be. Peace. But even in that, there's still a part of me that hesitates, that questions. Peace. That wonders if I'm allowed to want something real again after everything I've lost and everything I've held back. And I don't have a clear answer for that. Peace. All I have is this quiet feeling that maybe wanting something real isn't the problem. Peace. Maybe learning how to stay when it starts to become real, that's where everything changes. And I don't know yet if I've learned that fully. Peace. Or if I'm still standing at the edge of it, trying to gather the courage to take one step forward without looking for a reason to step back. Peace. I don't feel finished, not in the way people expect stories to end, with answers or something that makes the weight easier to carry. I just feel aware. Peace. I'm not the same man who stood in that quiet room waiting for a door that never opened. Peace. I've lost things since then, but more than that, I've seen parts of myself I used to avoid. I almost didn't say this. Peace. But you've stayed through the parts of me that don't know how to be seen, and that makes silence feel heavier than truth. Peace. Something inside me won't let me stay silent anymore. There are moments now, small ones, where I might catch myself almost feeling something steady, not happiness. Peace, not certainty, just something that doesn't disappear the moment I notice it. And it surprises me every time. I was walking one evening, no destination, just moved because staying still felt too close to thinking. The air was colder than it needed to be. Or maybe I just wasn't used to warmth anymore. peace. And I passed by a place filled with light voices, people sitting close to each other, like connection was something simple, something natural. I didn't go in. Peace. I just stood there watching from a distance, not because I didn't want it, but because part of me still didn't believe I belonged in something like that again. Peace. I never said this then, but I will now. Peace. I've learned how to live without expecting to be chosen. Peace. And that lesson, it protects you in ways that look like strength from the outside, but feel like quiet loneliness from within. You stop reaching. You stop asking. Peace. You become someone who accepts instead of someone who hopes. And for a while, that feels easier, cleaner. No disappointment, no sudden absence. Peace, but also no warmth that stays long enough to matter. And then there's you, standing in front of something I had already decided wasn't meant for me anymore. Peace, not forcing your way in, not asking me to change, just being there. Consistent in a way I don't fully understand yet, and I find myself doing something unfamiliar. Peace, I don't step closer immediately, but I don't step back either. I stay. Peace, and for me, that's new, because staying means feeling, and feeling means risking the kind of silence that once took everything from me. Peace, but it also means something else, something I'm only beginning to recognize, the possibility that not every silence ends the same way. Peace, that not every distance becomes permanent, that not every person walks away the moment things stop being easy. Peace, and I don't know if I fully believe that yet, but I don't reject it anymore either. And that feels like something small but real. Peace. There was a night recently, I almost closed myself off again. You said something simple, nothing heavy, nothing complicated. Peace. But it touched a part of me that still remembers what it feels like to lose everything without warning. Peace. And for a moment, I felt that instinct rise, that need to step back, to protect, to disappear before anything could go deeper. It was quick, familiar, almost automatic. Peace. And I paused, not because I knew what to do, but because I recognized what I was about to repeat. I've lived that version of myself before. Peace. The one who leaves emotionally before anyone else gets the chance to. Peace. The one who controls the ending just to avoid being left in it. And I stood there in that quiet moment, feeling both versions of myself at once. Peace. The one who runs and the one who wants to stay. I never said this then, but I will now. I chose not to run. Not because I was certain, not because I felt safe. Peace. But because I was tired of losing something before it even had a chance to exist. Peace. And that choice, it didn't feel strong, it felt fragile, like holding something delicate and knowing you don't fully trust your hands yet, but still choosing not to let go. Peace, I don't know if that's growth or just exhaustion from repeating the same endings, but it felt different, and I stayed with the discomfort, with the uncertainty, with you, with peace, and in that, something shifted again. Peace, not dramatically, not in a way anyone else would notice, just a quiet softening, like something inside me loosened its grip, just enough to breathe. Peace, I've spent a long time believing love had to be intense to be real, that it had to consume to prove itself. But what I'm starting to feel now, it's not like that. Peace, it doesn't overwhelm me, it doesn't take control, it just exists, steady, present. Peace. And for someone like me, That's harder to trust than chaos ever was, because chaos is familiar, pain is predictable. But calm requires a different kind of courage. Peace, the courage to stay without expecting something to break, the courage to receive something without questioning its intention every second. Peace, the courage to believe, even a little, that this might not end the way everything else did. Peace. And I don't know if I have that courage completely, but I think I'm learning it. Slowly, in the spaces where I don't pull away. Peace. In the moments where I let myself feel something without immediately analyzing it. In the silence that doesn't feel like abandonment, but simply quiet. Peace. And maybe that's the difference. Not everything that feels quiet is empty. Some things are just at peace. Peace, and I'm not used to that yet. I still look for signs, still listen for shifts, still wait for something to change, because that's what I've known. That's what experience has taught me. But you don't move like that, and you don't disappear into silence. It's the same way. And it confuses me in a way that though feels almost hopeful. I don't know where this leads. Peace, I don't know if this becomes something lasting or something I'll have to learn to let go of again. Mm-hmm. And I'm not asking for answers anymore, not from you. Peace, not from anything beyond us. Because I've started to understand something, not everything meaningful comes with certainty. Some things, they just arrive. Peace. And ask you to be present with them without knowing how they end. Peace. And maybe that's what this is. Not a promise, not a conclusion. Just a moment in my life where I chose not to close the door completely. Peace, where I allowed something to exist even if I don't fully understand it yet. And that might not sound like much. But for me, it's everything. Peace. Because for the first time in a long time, I'm not standing in front of something already expecting to lose it. Peace, I'm just here with you, without pretending I'm not afraid, without pretending I have it all figured out. Just honestly, trying. Peace. And maybe that's what love looks like for me now. Not certainty, not forever. Peace. Just the quiet courage to stay. When part of me still remembers what it feels like when everything falls silent. And tonight, that silence feels different, not empty.